Hello, everyone. It's Haley,
And Lacey.
and we are so excited because we have an amazing guest that we're bringing on shortly. We actually don't know a whole lot about him, so we are going to be getting to know him alongside you. But from what we do know, it's going to be a great interview. So stay tuned.
Guys, we're back. It's Monday.
And it's been a few. We've missed 2 Mondays.
We did. We
So
did.
we've
We've
missed
had a
you
lot
all,
going on. Yes, we
but-
totally have missed
and it's
everybody.
about to be November. It's
cold.
cold. It's like
I
winter.
saw snow yesterday, so that was a whole thing.
So yeah, so I guess it's like countdown to Christmas, which I'm excited.
I already started Christmas shopping.
Did
I was
you?
thinking yesterday, like last night, I was like, I should put the fireplace on and watch Christmas movies. And then I realized like Halloween hasn't even happened, but that's just like where my mind goes. The second
It's
hot
cold.
chocolate, as soon as I see snow, I'm like,
There
hot
was
chocolate
snow this
fire-
weekend too.
Oh, it was so pretty.
We put our Christmas tree up the day after Halloween.
Oh,
Or the weekend after
you were
Halloween.
gonna say you already did. I was
No, like so this weekend we'll probably put it up.
oh yeah, yeah,
So I'm kind of excited.
for sure. I love
We just started that last year, like that early, but
Yeah.
there's a really cool video that maybe I'll link on my page that my husband showed me about why to celebrate Christmas early
Yeah.
and like just the
it
traditions that
does.
you can share. Like it goes so
Yeah.
quickly.
It does.
So, anyways, I'm pumped about it. And also about this interview, which he is
I'm
waiting.
so excited, you guys.
Should we bring
So
him
I
on?
think we should bring him in.
All righty, on it. Here he is. Hello, hello.
We might be muted.
Oh,
Hello.
you got to unmute yourself. There we go.
Oh,
Hi.
you can hear us.
Howdy.
How's it going?
Going good.
Thanks for taking the time to be interviewed on our show. We're pumped to have you.
Nice.
I'm
And you guys
Haley.
are where?
What'd you say? We're in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay, cool.
Small
How long have you
town,
been with
Minnesota.
EXP?
I've been with EXP 2 years.
2 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a
What is
team.
what is the goal that you want me to help you guys accomplish for this interview?
Well, we'll lead you through it, but we usually just kind of start because we start with a little hello, and then Lacey does a few questions that help us get to know you, kind of break the ice. And then once we get into the body of it, what we're looking for you to share is your story. So kind of get to know John, how you got to where you're at. And then any messy that you've overcome in the process, because our show is called Messy Legacies.
Okay.
And
Yes.
we just really want our viewers to realize that it is messy. Like as much as what we see on social media is the easy and the wins a lot of times, like we're trying to authentically share the agent's perspective on what it's really like to grow a business and a real estate business. And then we also want you to share why you chose real estate for the platform to build your legacy upon and why EXP. And then any advice for viewers, specifically realtors, on how to build a powerful legacy.
Awesome. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be so good. But before we get into that, Lacey's gonna break the ice.
Yeah.
So go for it, Lacey.
I always have to do some off the cuff funny questions just to break the ice a little bit. So the first question.
You don't have, you can give them to me raw. I don't need a pre. It'll
Yeah.
be better if I don't know them.
These
Perfect.
are raw.
No, these are raw. You
This
have
is
to just
recorded.
we're
So
recording. Yeah, you got to give us.
we're not editing this. This is
Yeah.
going to be out there. So be prepared.
All right.
Awesome.
Do you have a secret talent? And if so, what is it?
And bonus points if you can do the talent on the video.
On the video. Yeah.
No, I don't have a secret talent like that. I'm not high enough eye
AJ
for
said
that.
too.
Not high enough eye.
My secret talent is that I'm not very smart and I can keep things really simple.
That is good.
And
That's
my
really
wife says that I am very smart, but like I think my ability is to take things that can get complicated very quickly and
Mhm.
synthesize them down into like what really freaking matters here.
I love that. That is awesome. That's a talent, especially in the EXP world. And
For
real
sure.
estate. All right, next
All
question.
right, next question. What character from a movie, book, TV show do you relate to the most and why?
Character from a movie, book, or TV show. Yikes.
It can be like It can be nonfiction or fiction. So who do you relate to?
I have to narrow that down in my brain first so I can process that. Let's try to narrow it down into the movie sector. Character that I relate to. Let's go with um let's go with
We got him. We got him.
Shawshank Redemption. I would be willing to do anything to
Ooh.
break out of prison. Like if it took me 20 some years, like it did, in the movie, for them to get out and devise a plan and like work that plan every day, and make small gains in order to get out. Like I would do it because at my core, the thing that drives me more than anything else, and the thing I'm most afraid of, is being trapped. And freedom is what drives me. So everything that I've been able to accomplish in my business life has been because I've been afraid of not being able to be free. And that's what pushes me forward and drives me. So when I think about that movie, and it's like, it's a cool movie in that you don't really know what's happening until like later on in the end. And it's like little by little, day by day, he was doing small things that ultimately led to his freedom. And I think that's the same in real estate, right? Like if we want to be successful as a real estate agent, it's the little things that are easy not to do that compounded over time are what's going to lead to an amazing career.
That's so
Wow.
true and so good.
I thought we stumped you and then you bust this out.
No,
That's amazing.
that's deep.
I just had to make it simple. I had to be like, wait, there's too many
right,
options here.
right.
Let's just go with movie.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I appreciate that you related it to real estate. Now I want to watch that movie
Oh,
again.
it's so good.
It's such
So
a
good.
it's a tearjerker, but it's so good.
such a
And
powerful-
like how strong and how like much he perseveres
Mhm.
in just the basic. Like
Yeah.
it's obviously he's doesn't have many options and he perseveres. So keep it basic, keep doing it. Love it. Any others?
Yeah. What is the last book you read?
The last book I read, I don't know what the title is. It's just because it's a difficult title, but I'll explain it to you. It's called Out of the Black Shadows.
Okay.
And it's really an amazing story about this guy who grew up in South Africa in the 80s during a very difficult time. Like poverty is just like, at all-time high. There's, political unrest. And he was a gang member, uneducated, couldn't go to school. His dad left him as a young kid. His mom was an alcoholic, and his mom left him in the marketplace and just abandoned him when he was like a 7-year-old, which meant that he got dumped on his aunt, and they were too poor to actually care for him. So he lived in his aunt's chicken coop because she wouldn't even let him in the house. And ultimately, he walked away from his only family he had to join a gang because that became his family. As he was a gang member, he was involved in, basically taking these petrol bombs, and they would just bomb people, and that's what they did, and they just steal from people. And he was going to a meeting where there was going to be a whole bunch of Christians under this tent for this revival, and he was going to go kill a bunch of Christians and bomb them. And something drew him into the tent, and he sat there and gave his life to Christ in that moment, and ended up becoming one of like the most amazing pastors that have ever like walked this earth, and helped just the turnaround story, the change. I like stories where there's an unsung hero, and this like people rise up, they bootstrap their way to a better tomorrow. So that speaks to me. So when somebody told me about this story of this like gang member persecuting, trying to kill Christians, to one of these like amazing, leaders and authorities on the subject, I had to read it. And I just got done with that 2 weeks ago. And right now I'm reading Integrity by Glenn Stearns. Glenn Stearns from Undercover Billionaire. And this book is fascinating to me. I've been at EXP now for 3 years, and Glenn Stearns has kind of always been in the background because, we had a partnership with Success Lending, and he runs that company. But I never really like paid him any attention. He was just kind of like, I'm not like, oh yeah, you're Undercover Billionaire. Like, I don't care. Like, that doesn't have any meaning to me. but I was at our event a few weeks ago, and I got to do a breakout session with him and his wife. And it was only like 100 people in the room. And he was sharing these stories of how he grew up. And similar to the other book I just mentioned, like when he grew up, you know, he had a child at 14 years old, like
Oh, wow.
rocked his world. He was
Yeah.
addicted. He was an alcoholic before he left high school. Like all these different challenges that I just like get ingrained in, and what he's been able to do. I'm only halfway, three-quarters of the way through the book, but it's been a collection of stories. And for him to come out of that and become a billionaire, I find very inspiring. I've actually sent the book to 2 people already, and I ordered 5 additional copies to keep on my bookshelf to hand out. Because when I find somebody going through a divorce, or, you know, going through the loss of a child, or just anything that seems insurmountable at the time that we can get stuck in, I like to be able to give somebody something, and books are like my thing that I connect with. So I find that to be a very powerful read as well.
Wow.
It's crazy because I just spoke at a women's Christian event Friday, and the topic was overcoming, and 2 of us shared stories of overcoming, and it was just all centered around just how God uses these moments of desperation where we are crying out to him to give us a new life, you know? And I feel like that's what you're talking about, is just it almost sounds like you are drawn to those stories, and you like to encourage people that are in those moments because you see the potential of that pushing you into the freedom that's available.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of it, like that's what living really is. It's like, you know, how far willing and how many times are we willing to break through a comfort zone to get to a new and beautiful level that awaits us, which will have another problem and another struggle that we'll have to break through. But the alternative of remaining comfortable is death. And you don't get to live. It's like, did I really want to get up at 5:45 this morning and go to CrossFit? No. I mean, it's 13 degrees here in Bozeman right now. I didn't want to do it.
Wow.
But discipline is doing the thing that you set the intention to do long after the feeling of when you set the intention is gone. And I know that if I don't get up and I don't exercise, I won't feel good. I won't have clarity of thoughts. I won't be able to be the best husband, best father, best business owner. And ultimately, I'll miss out. And that becomes a prison of our own doing, if we will.
That's so true.
I think that like everybody is chasing comfort right now instead of pursuing like what their best self is. And when it sounds cliche, but when we do that, we actually feel a sense of pride and courage that we wouldn't otherwise feel. And that's the thing that moves us forward.
That's so true. I think that the world is like addicted to comfort and instant gratification, and we're almost promised that that is what like brings you success, but it actually robs you from the very thing that gives you gratification, which is like you know, just feeling good that you followed through with something and that you overcame. And
I'll share a personal story with you just to kind of like not make this all rose petals. When I got into EXP, I achieved a lot of success very quickly. 1,000 people in my organization in my first year. And I was kind of like, I arrived, like, I don't have to do anything anymore. And I still was, but like I was coasting is the best way to say it. And I spent the next 18 months so comfortable, not really pushing the envelope anymore. And that was a very difficult 18 months for me where I felt very unfulfilled. And my wife was like, why are you so cranky all the time?
Right.
I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not cranky. And as I doubled down and recommitted and started to like understand like what was really going on, is like I wasn't pushing the boundary anymore. I was comfortable, and I was enjoying that comfort, but realizing that at the same time I was missing out on what truly like makes me feel alive. So I'm pushing myself harder this year than I probably have in a lot of years, and I'm excited about it.
That's awesome. And honestly, like I think there's sometimes a challenge though to like push it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And
Totally.
and I think that sometimes when people hear stories like what you're sharing, they might go and start achieving all these goals for other people, or
Yeah.
for, you know, to gain, like, it's like they're wanting to get the prize.
Yeah.
And I think then they like get burnt out, which we were talking about this.
Yeah.
And then they go to the opposite extreme and they give up on all goals and they're like, I'm just doing nothing. And that doesn't do it either. And so I think it's very much like a thin line of
Yeah.
setting the goals with like reflection and taking the time to be intentional about what you're striving for,
Yeah.
and then creating that path and then following through with it is
There's
where
always a tendency in a business mastermind to think it's all about business, and in most cases, it has very little to do with business.
right. Yeah.
So for striving this year, and like what I'm locked in on is, you know, I'm really committed to like getting in the best shape that I've ever been. Like, so really making health a priority. But I'm also serving. So like I joined a thing called Thrive, which is a mentorship program where I'll spend an hour a week with a high school student that they pair me up with, where I have nothing to gain from this person, only to give.
Right. Right.
And so that's putting myself out there. And then I joined a local business mastermind where I have nothing to gain from it. I don't sell real estate locally. I'm just trying to take any experience or, you know, situation that I've been able to overcome in business and help these other business members. And the amount of enjoyment and fulfillment that I'm getting from that it's hard to quantify, because we're so used to KPIs and business metrics. But there's a great book called Halftime. And Halftime is a Christian book, but the premise of the book Halftime is we spend the first half of our lives becoming successful, and if we don't flip that switch, we'll just become more successful, and we're just going to die. So the idea of Halftime is, okay, well, like you spent the first half of your life becoming successful, now flip this switch and become the second half of your life be significant. So
good.
like, what are we doing? And like, if I find myself stressed, then it's an indicator that something's not right. Because I don't think when we're in our true ability and our skill set and our talent, like our God-given talent and purpose, and I believe we're all created unique and we're all here for a purpose. When we're in that, I don't believe that we should feel stressful. I believe that there will be times of stress because we're going for something and it's not always going to be easy. That's life. But if we're feeling, like you said, burnt out and stressful, it's because we're not doing the things that we're
The
meant to
right
be.
things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. That's so true. That's so true. Golly, so good. Oh my gosh. We haven't even gotten into the
I
interview.
have
and
so
I'm
many
like,
questions. So I want to circle back because you said that you've been with EXP for 3 years,
Yep.
then that you had 1,000, did
In
you
his
say
first year.
1,000 agents in your first year? So go into that a little bit. Tell
That's
us your
actually-
story.
That's how I met you, or I first knew of you. I was at the Build conference when you spoke
Okay.
in Dallas, and that
Yeah.
was, I went there not
Not
over
last
at
year,
EXP
the year
yet. Yeah,
Okay.
it would have been 3 years ago, I
3 years,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like when you were recognized as like the, you know, you were about a year and you had like 1,000 agents.
Unreal.
And I I remember meeting you. I remember hearing, and then after we joined, we are in the Game Changers downline under AJ. And
Nice.
so we're under Noel and
Nice.
a little bit under Noel, but so we've been on that group. So then I saw you kind of building out the agent attraction piece of that. But yeah, so it's crazy to think like, and back to Lacey's question, like give us like your story, because now hearing where you're at, it's so helpful for me, because like the
What do you
top,
prefer? Do you prefer like the real estate journey story or just when I got an EXP story?
No, like the real estate journey. Like how long
All
were
of
you
it.
a realtor?
We need
Where-
like 2
where did you
hours.
start?
All right,
within,
I'll
like,
do
10
it. I'll do it quickly because I know
Yeah.
that, you know, people generally have a drive time and that's it.
Yeah.
So I won't make this like long form Joe Rogan 2 hour style.
Okay.
So
Would be
I was
better
introduced.
to-
I was introduced into real estate. I was asked to come into it, and at the time that I was asked to come in, I was going through a very difficult period of my life relationally. And a guy saw something in me that I didn't even know about myself. And he just said, hey man, he said, I think you would be an amazing real estate agent. And he's like, I want you to come work for me. And I'd never even thought about real estate before. But, you know, here was somebody saying that he thought I could be successful, and he was successful. So I was like, okay, I'll give this thing a try. Like, what else do I have to do? I didn't go to college. Like, it's like, oh, I could wait tables, I could do this, or I could do that.
Yeah. How
So,
old were you at the time?
21.
Okay.
So 21, almost 22. I got licensed and kind of made that full. I was running another business at the time, and I had 4 different bosses. Each boss or investor wanted the business to do something different, and he was one of them. And he had a real estate company. He was like, look, dude, you're gonna make twice as much money in real estate working half as hard. And he's like, you're gonna do great. So I transitioned out of that business that I was running into this career real estate, and started on January 1st. Got licensed in 21 or 2001. Got 2001. Started on January 1st, 2002, and went after it. Was nominated rookie of my year, my first year in my MLS. Just did really well out of the gate. I was the youngest person in my office by more than 30 years. So when I first started, it was like all these OGs, and it was called Fleming Real Estate. It was in upstate New York, and we were like the #1 independent in our marketplace at that time. And did a lot of advertising in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, a lot of weekend people coming up, and that was like my whole thing, right? Like I grew up there, I loved the area, and it was super fun, and I found a natural affinity to it. I realized I was good at it, I enjoyed it, all these things. So I reconnected with my wife. We did it in high school. I was an idiot then. I matured a little bit. I came back for her. She gave me a second chance, and we ultimately got married in 2006. And, you know, I had a good career. I made 6 figures or more every year in real estate, which, you know, going back 20 some years ago, that was a lot of money then. And I said, let's get out of here. Like, we can do anything.
And you're like
And
25, 26 right now.
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm
At
like,
that
let's
age.
go to North Carolina. And my mom and dad had planned on retiring down there, to Lake Norman, north of the Charlotte marketplace. So we go down to North Carolina, and I get there. I'm like, it's gonna be great. There's so many houses here comparatively to where we were in upstate New York. So many sales happening. It was like big business. And I got down there and I fell on my face, and I literally couldn't get traction. I was waiting tables. I was working for this technology company, and I was trying to be a realtor, and I was just like going into debt every single month.
And that was like when the market crashed.
Yeah.
My marriage was rough, to say the least, and the market crashed in 2007. Trying to like make it through that, and ultimately I just didn't know like how I was going to get myself out of the hole I was in. And one day I was in my real estate company, and a guy walked in, and he had tickets to a Craig Proctor conference, and he said, hey, I can bring a guest for $500, and you can ride with me, and we'll drive 9 hours from Charlotte down to Orlando, and we'll go to this event. So I borrowed $500. I got a ticket. I went down there, and I was blown away. I was like, here's people, like hundreds and hundreds of people making a ton of money in real estate, money that I couldn't even like wrap my head around at the time. I'm just trying to sell a house to like pay my bills. And people are talking about selling like 5, 10, 15, 30 houses a month. And it was just like more than I could process, but I processed enough to know that people were where I wanted to be, and they had a plan to get there, and I was sold out. I left that conference with 2 other guys in that car. Those 2 guys were kind of like rebuilding the plan on the way home. Like, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm sitting in the back seat thinking like, you guys are idiots. Like, we just went to a conference. They gave us a plan. You're trying to change the plan, and you suck. You know what I mean? Like, you're barely surviving too. So I just said, I'm just going to do everything they tell me to do. And then if it doesn't work, I can tell them it's their fault. So I signed up for all the coaching on money I didn't have, on credit cards that would have, you know, bounced if they hit them. And they said, hey, we're not going to charge you for 90 days. And I dove in with both feet, and I made more money in the next 90 days than I'd ever made in a year before.
Following their plan.
Following their plan to a T. And then I was, hooked on coaching ever after that. Joined a bunch of programs. I've been involved in just about everyone out there. I learned some really great things from some of them. I learned some things I didn't want from others. And I just kept, stacking the bricks. Ultimately started my own independent real estate company, had a mortgage branch as well, part owner in a title company. I was an original founding member of Commissions Inc., which is a real estate technology. Just got to do a lot of cool stuff as my my business continued to grow. Met a lot of great people, and ultimately was convinced that the independent brokerage was the way forward for me, and that would be the rest of my career. And I was sold out on that model. We built an amazing brand. We took our team from Remax at the time over to this new independent. We doubled our business. We doubled it again the following year. I took myself out of production completely while increasing my profitability. I took myself out of the day-to-day by implementing the Traction EOS system. And I was kind of like, this model is amazing and I can help others do it too. Because when I looked under the hood of most real estate businesses, whether it was a team leader or a broker owner, what I found is if we took that broker owner team leader and their personal production out of the equation, most businesses weren't even profitable. And so I started a coaching company on what I did and how I did it, specifically for team leaders, broker owners, and helping them in that segment. And because I was out of the day-to-day, I didn't really need to be in North Carolina anymore. My family and I decided to move around the country, and we got a RV van, and we traveled and we did all the national parks. And then this thing called COVID happened, which sidelined us, and we knew we didn't want to go back to North Carolina, and we decided to relocate to Bozeman, Montana. And it was when I relocated to Bozeman, Montana, that I was like, well, if I'm never going back to North Carolina and I have all this overhead employee structure there, how do I be responsible with those families there? And I ultimately said, I've either got to sell this business to somebody who's there, or I've got to repurpose it in a way that's more reliable. Because I kept losing my top producers. And when I lose my top producer, it was just like heartbreaking for me, because it was like, man, I invested so much and I changed that person's life for a minute. Like they went from making X to making a lot more than X. And I could see the impact that had on their families and where their kids went to school and what cars they drove and what neighborhoods they lived in. And it was really cool, but it was just like a brief moment of their life.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't even know, like, what am I going to do with this thing? And that's when I started to look at EXP, because what I saw was my company was affected by COVID. All the people I coached were affected by COVID, but there was this one company that wasn't affected by COVID. And in fact, it was actually helped by COVID. And it was this company called EXP, who had a really ugly logo at the time. And I didn't think very highly of.
Right.
But I was
horrible
curious.
colors.
Yeah, so I was curious. So I started asking around, and AJ and I had a good relationship. His wife and my wife were friends, and I started asking him kind of like, well, what about this logo? And like, hey man, I'm really excited that you're making so much money, but like, what's your plan B? Because surely that's not going to last. And he's like, no, he's like, I think it will, and here's why. And I started to look at it for the first time, and a couple things stood out to me. When I realized that EXP wasn't going to replace my brand, but that I could bring my brand over to this platform, and it was better for me, but more importantly, it was better for my agents, I was very curious. Then when I realized that I was doing everything that I needed to do to be successful at EXP already, running my own independent, I was meeting with and recruiting agents regularly, right? And I was doing sales at a high level. And I was losing agents. So what EXP solved for me is they gave me the next step of the journey of my top producers. So when they wanted to leave me, I could still be in business with them.
Yeah.
They gave me a plan B when I was sitting down with my initial agent at a recruiting meeting, because if I sat down with 10 agents, I probably only wanted 3 or 4 in my model, because I was looking for people that had the work ethic, wanted to be held accountable, were willing to do and follow my systems, and were willing to pay me a 50% split. So like, that's a smaller segment than the 100% you sit down with. And I just said, man, if they're not going to join me for everything I offer, the next best option is EXP. So if I'm sitting down with them anyway, I can offer them my team. And if they don't want my team, I can offer them EXP. And I projected out what I thought was a conservative example on like how many I could attract to my team and to EXP as a plan B over a 10-year period.
Yeah.
And what I figured out was, if I just did what I was already doing for 10 years more, the EXP model in 10 years would catch up to me, and I would be making as much from EXP and recruiting and revenue share and stock as I was from my current business. And what ultimately happened was I joined EXP. And inside my first year, I replicated what I was making in my real estate business in EXP.
Crazy.
Now I have, you know, I'm 3 years and a month in, and now I have like over 2,000 agents, like 2,060 some agents at this
Because
moment.
once you get that traction, it
Yep.
just, the compounding interest concept kicks in. and
I sit down with, you know, the who's who of Keller Williams and Remax and Coldwell Banker. And one of the things I love to share with them is I'll show them my dashboard. I'll be like, hey man, I added 72 agents this month. I wasn't responsible for any of them. I didn't have a
Right.
single conversation with any of those. Well, maybe I did a three-way call, but there's many months where like I personally don't recruit anybody. It just is what it is.
Crazy.
And you know, I went on a 3-week mission trip to Egypt, and I came back, and that month we added 83 agents. But I'll ask these brokers of other brands, I'll say, hey, you're in your brand, you've been there for a lot of years. Let me ask you something just straight up. The number one office for your brand in the world, did they add 83 agents to their roster in the last 30 days? And the answer is 100% no every time. There's
Right.
no brand that adds that many agents to any single office in a 30-day period, unless there was an acquisition where they like bought another company. And I'll say, well, listen, man, before today, we didn't know each other. You've never met me before. I'm not better than Gary Keller. I'm not better than Dave Liniger. I just have a better model. And my model allows me to scale anywhere infinitely. And EXP does all of the work of that scale. And I get all of the reward for introducing them and bringing them over.
Mhm.
And you just can't compete with that.
No, you really can't.
You can't, but I do think that I mean, the way that you built it
Yeah.
is like, as far as advice goes, because you've talked about your story, which is amazing. I
Yeah.
feel like we could listen another few hours, but we don't have that time.
Actually, how I did it.
But it's like, okay, so, and then the messy, you've obviously
Yeah.
shared, it's been hard,
Yeah.
but like, how advice,
So,
like,
so
because,
first and foremost, I didn't do it. We did it.
Mhm.
And when people understand that, that's a key distinction to EXP is most people you talk to that are not with EXP,
Mhm.
everything that they've achieved has largely been on their shoulders. It's been
Mhm.
their effort and their result.
Yeah.
At EXP, no matter how great you are, your results are going to be largely due to other people's input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, all the people that I've introduced to EXP represents 1.8% of my organization. So I give 100% of my talent, my effort, my experience, and I brought it to the table. And 3 years in, EXP is compensating me 98.2% more than what I brought to the table. So that's first. We did it together. When I understood that it was going to be we doing it together, I just, sat back and thought, who would I want to work with? Who would I want to run with? Like if I could pick my dream team of everybody that I personally know, because I believe this thing grows through people that you have a personal relationship with. I know that other people have done it other ways through social media. I just think that lift takes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Totally worth doing. I'm doing it personally myself at this point. Takes a little bit longer. When people ask me, how did I do what I did and how did I do it quickly? It was warm market focusing on people of influence. So I said, of all the people I know in real estate, who do I respect the most? Who has the most level of influence?
Yeah.
And instead of warming up to call those people, I called those people first. And I just said, hey, you know me, I know you, you know the business I built, you know it's a good one. I'm thinking about making a huge change, and I'd really like to sit down and discuss this with you because I respect your opinion truly. And I think you're going to think I'm crazy, and I just want to talk it out, and I want you to poke holes in it.
Mhm.
And I did that with 10 people, and 8 of those people joined me, and they were powerhouses, and they had teams, and they had companies, and they had coaching companies. And together, we just went and built the plan. We built the plane while we were flying it, because I had access to some of the best people in the world for EXP. And I interviewed them and I said, what would you tell me to do with all your knowledge and all your experience? You've been at EXP for a while. What would you tell me to do? And more importantly, what would you tell me not to do? And I took notes. I found the through line in that. And then from those conversations, I literally, a week into EXP, built out how I saw it come together. into a simple 4-step training process that I still coach and teach today.
The game changers training.
And that's what led to my growth and led to the organization growing quickly. Because there's a lot of things that you or I can do because we're on this call and we're having this conversation and we're high achievers.
Right.
Less, it just is what it is. But what really makes something grow quickly is when anybody can believe they can do it and can do it.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference of what we've done in our organization is we've kept it really simple.
That's what I noticed when I was plugging into your calls is it's just very straightforward, simple, which you started with that, like your
It's
secret
not sexy.
straightforward. Yeah. And I think that's like a lot of realtors drawn to EXP, especially leaders, we're like creative. And so then we want to bring that into business models. And I'm learning, I'm learning a lot. It's kind of like parenting. I learned this weekend at church. They talked about like when your kids are little, you're teaching them like you start out with control, like you have to give them control to protect them. But as they get older, you shift to influence and you want to be influencing them by the time they're 10 versus controlling them. So it's a gradual progression. And I feel like that gave me peace to creating a very simplified process for my business and for other agents, because I tend to think, oh, I need to influence. But it's like, if you're influencing people that don't even know how to keep themselves safe, you're doing them a disservice. You have to give them that order and control and clarity.
I'm actually glad that we're talking about keeping things simple, because I feel like you and I came into the office today and had this we already went down the rabbit hole of all the things that we want to do. And we always are thinking of, we have to do this and we have to do this. And it's like, we don't actually have to do any of those things. Like, we're actually great already, and we can simplify the things that we want to teach the people that are on our team, or, when recruiting agents or whatever that looks like, but just keeping it short and sweet and simple. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah,
so true.
Absolutely.
So good. Oh my gosh. Okay. We need to wrap it up because we want to respect your time.
Yes.
So we like to end with like a couple of our favorite takeaways.
That's my takeaway right there. Because I'm going to
keep it
things
simple.
Yes.
It's what the industry desperately needs right now.
Yes.
So most agents, and we can define most as more than 50%, and that's very conservative. Most agents that are in the business right now have never seen a down market.
Right.
Half of the agents that are full-time realtors today have only been in the industry in a season where every year was bigger than the year before.
Yes.
That just changed. Agents are being exposed for the business practices or lack of business practices that they have. What agents need is something tangible to hang on to. Not some theory, not some idea, not some strategy that's going to take 2 years to take root, but like, how many leads are you generating right now? And then how are you converting those leads through a sales cycle of conversations, appointments, agency, follow-up, contracts, closed, and then past client, and then servicing them forever in your database. If you're not tracking and managing those things, you don't have a business, and you're probably not going to be in business, because the things that happened over the last 5 years, they saved you because the market continued to provide for you. But the good news is that I believe that true momentum is gained in down markets like this. I had to learn this the hard way through 2007. So everything that we're saying about EXP is just a platform. And the platform allows us to grow and compound at a higher level, but the principles are the same. It's what are we doing and what are we tracking daily that's going to lead to our success. So many agents that I talk to right now, you can sense the overwhelm and the feeling of just disparity and loss. Like, they don't know what to do because nobody's being a leader and telling them what they have to do, because they're trying to tell them what they think they want to hear, which is like, you can go pay for this thing, you can go do this video, and in 37 seconds overnight, all your problems are going to be solved. It's not true.
No.
It's like, dude, you got to go get a lead. And if you don't have any money, you got to go knock on some doors. You got to go rub some shoulders. You got to go shake some hands. But at the end of the day, you either got a lead today or you didn't. End of story. And that's the way they got to start thinking about their business. So yeah, keeping it simple is everything right now.
So good. Yeah, I almost have to echo what she said because I feel like there is that the shiny object
Yeah.
issue in the world. And I think in a hot market that was almost justified, like people would link their success to the shiny object. And so it fueled that desire and that belief that like, oh, buy something and you'll be successful. But I think if you stripped away a hot market, it wasn't equal to the thing that they paid for. It was just the hot market.
Correct.
And so now it's like we're stripping away all of that and we just have to get back to basics. And I think going back to your beginning about how like the hard stuff and the challenges is what actually like, and doing the hard stuff is what actually gives us joy and purpose versus just like it being easy and coasting.
Yeah.
Like I think my takeaway is like be excited that we are presented an opportunity to do the things that maybe aren't glamorous, but will give us true meaning. And glamorize that, like glamorize the idea of how it feels like this morning when my alarm went off. And I remember specifically being like, I'm not working out today, so I could take another 30 minutes and sleep. Or I felt like God saying, get your butt up, get in the word, spend some time with me, and I'm going to reveal to you some things. And it's like, I literally sat in my thoughts and I'm like, it feels tempting to just stay in bed, but I know that I'm going to not feel good about myself and I'm going to miss out on what God has for me. So I got myself up and I sat there and I got in the word. And it's like, when we have that prompting and we're faced with the decision, what feels like the easier, more enjoyable decision up front is actually probably going to result in misery a little bit later. So just really like training yourself to like, when you see something that you have a choice, do the harder one because you're going to thank yourself later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, most people, they don't realize that unconsciously they're programming themselves not to trust themselves.
So true.
Yeah.
Because we set goals, and then when we don't do the things that lead to success in that area, we're actually telling ourselves that we don't believe in ourselves. So like every small win should be celebrated. Hey, I got out of bed today. I got into the word. I got to the gym.
Right.
And all of a sudden what you'll find is that you'll be willing to make bigger commitments, which will lead to greater successes, which will give you more courage. And it's just a cycle.
You like
And
build your faith, like you're increasing your faith in yourself and in the Lord if you're a believer, which I hope everyone is because it's our one hope. But yeah, it's just like, it's so cool. This has been
there's
so
truly
awesome.
nothing you can't accomplish if you break down the specific parts and are willing to work at those things for a long enough period of time. Angela Duckworth wrote a great book called Grit. And if you feel like you're stuck and you feel like, man, I know I need to, I just can't get myself to, that could be a really good book to read to just kind of understand psychologically what's going on, to help propel you forward. But I would say, like, as an actionable takeaway, it's like figure out what your metrics are for what you're trying to accomplish specific to your goals, get somebody to hold you accountable to those goals, and then just take the action and be committed to that action consistently over time until the result happens.
So good. Well, thank you so much. I wrote down like 5 books that I want to read.
I know, that's why I always ask, because I love reading, and every single person we ask, we always get the best referrals or for the books.
Good stuff. We appreciate your time, and we will continue watching and cheering you on from Minnesota.
Perfect. Best of luck to you
Hopefully
guys.
we'll
If there's
see you
anything I can
around.
do to help, just let me know.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
See you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.